Hello, all. I'm hopping on here to tell you a profound experience that I had last night, and I hope it blesses you. It blessed me. It has been a strange time. I really feel like, as a collective, we are awakening and we are ascending. And if that resonates with you, it will resonate with you. If not, then it won't. But last night, I asked the universe to show me what I needed to see. And the experience that I received has kind of shaken my world. I've been feeling for a long time. Back when I was a teenager, it was prophesied over me that I would be known. And I would be known for my voice, and I would sing. And I've written all my visions down. I've written down all these prophecies and all these words that have been spoken over me, and I've held them in my heart. A few years ago, I started working on my music, and I'm working on an album now that is soon to be released. And the first track of that album is called Emergence, because I felt so strongly in my spirit that it's time for me to emerge out of hiding into the light to be seen. And that can be a scary thing to do. It's easy to hide our gifts. It's easy to think that we're not worthy of what we're being told we're worthy of. And I've travelled very far from those early days when these things were spoken over me. And my spiritual walk has developed. And in the last 3 years, my music has developed. Anyway, last night, I found myself in an experience which was I was in the ocean, and I had this huge fishing net. It filled the ocean, and I was pulling it, and it was full of people, and I was pulling these people out of the depths. And I was wondering at one point, how have I got the strength to carry all these people out of this ocean? But I just did. I knew that it was my job. And I knew I had to carry them to shore, to safety, to this beautiful sandy shoreline that I could see ahead. And I was like, I just need to get them to shore. And lo and behold, we landed on the shoreline, and the nets broke, and I ran onto the shore, and then others just streamed out. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people streamed onto this new land, this sand, this new surroundings. And I got lost in the crowd of everyone just pouring onto this beach. And I felt the sun on my face, and I felt God, and I felt I was in a place that was new, and it was bright, and it was holy, and it was wonderful. And I was just experiencing the sun on my face, like, thank God I've made it, and I've brought all these people to these shores. And I also knew that it didn't matter that they didn't know that it was me that had dragged them out of the depths. I didn't want any recognition. I was happy just to have got them there. And was prepared to be wandering off. There was this mountain, and I knew I just had to go to the top of this mountain. I just instinctively knew that's where I'm heading. So I started to walk in that direction, and people were dispersing on the beach. And then suddenly someone said, "Hey, it's her. It's Rebecca Knight. She's the one that pulled us out. She pulled the nets." And I panicked, and I was like, oh no. And then suddenly people started crowding around me, and they were lifting me up. And then all of the people that were dispersing in different directions came, and they lifted me up, and they were carrying me, and they started to carry me up the mountain, like in this celebratory feeling, this beautiful feeling. And they were carrying me up this mountain, streams and streams. And as I look back, more people were coming out of the ocean, because we'd created this path to know how to get to shore. And there was just thousands and thousands. And then it got to almost the peak of the mountain, and I said, stop, just stop a minute. I need to stop. I need to take stock. I need to just take a moment to take in what's just happened. And I looked down at these faces that were like looking at me with such beautiful admiration. It makes me cry. And support. And I was just like, look what we've done. This is so amazing. And I could see my family. I could see people that have helped me along the way. I've seen people that have seen me before I've seen myself. And they were saying, we've been waiting for you, Rebecca, but you can't stop here. You have to get to the top of the mountain. Everybody needs to see this. And so I took stock and I just smiled, and I could see everything. I could see all the fishes and the whales and the underlife of the waters, and it was teeming with life, and it was changing. Things were being transformed. And then I suddenly turned into a crow. Sounds crazy. And I flew from this point where they were holding me up. I flew and I went to my ancestors, and they were holding up this bag of wisdom, and I took it in my beak, and then I closed off the ancestors, and then I flew to the Elohim, and the Elohim were there holding this bag of wisdom, and I took it in my beak, and I closed off their dimension, and I flew, and then I kept going to all these dimensions, and then I went to the dragon world, and I called 4 baby dragons, and they hadn't learned how to breathe fire yet, and I said, breathe your fire, and they like did this little puff of like fire, and I said, you're going to need that. I'm going to teach you how to use your fire. And then I asked them to breathe fire on the dragon realm, and it closed. And everywhere I went, the moment I got the wisdom or the thing that I needed, I had to close it because it needed to be hidden, because it was important that the wrong people didn't find this information. It was hidden secret wisdom, and I was being given it all. And then I felt this strange pull, and I turned and I went up into the heavenly realms, and the atmosphere changed, and the angels gave me singing, and there was choirs of angels and this beauty, and they were giving me their wisdom, and they were all winking and smiling at me. And then it turned again, and I was like, oh, like, this is so amazing. Like the presence, I could feel this presence. And I went up and up and up and up until I found myself at these huge, enormous brass doors that was all golden and brass, and it felt like honey. I don't know how to describe it. It was golden and glistening, and I knew it was the throne room of God. And somehow I had this boldness, and I banged on the door and I said, let me in. And then I pulled out a key because I had authority to walk in, but I didn't have to use the key. The doors just opened before me, and I walked in, and I was in the throne room of the Godhead, and I was just in awe, like, oh my gosh, this is the Godhead. And as I stood in that presence of the Godhead, all I wanted to do was worship, was like, wow. And then I realized I was being transformed into this feeling of, I am one with God. I am God. I am made in the image. I am this I am this. And all of my cells were regenerating and turning back to their originality. Like, they were golden, they were purified, they were full of love. And I knew that this was a lesson, like the journey I've been taking on these years is ultimately to get to a point where I realize that there is nothing that separates us from the divine, and we are the divine. We are gods. We are made in that image. And I was just wanting to like worship almost. And then God's voice said to me, you had to come on this journey to this point to realize who you are in your fullness and in your power and your sovereignty, to teach others how to do that for themselves too, because we are all this. We are all this. We are all perfect. We are all divine. We all have these wonderful gifts. And so then I was called back to the mountain where I'd kind of like asked everybody to stop. And I took all these things with me. And I said, okay, now I'm ready. And something changed, and I just knew I was going to be seen. I knew that people were going to be listening to me. I knew that people were going to resonate with the words, because I knew that I was a messenger. And as I looked down, I realized I couldn't have done this journey without the others. I couldn't have done this journey without you guys. I couldn't have done this journey without the support. And as you supported me, I was supporting you, and it was like this figure eight. And as I stood there, I knew that this journey that I created was for others, firstly for me, and then for the others, that we can be transformed. We can be transformed into the gloriousness of who we are. And, you know, we have to go through all these layers of peeling off all the lack of self-worth, the doubt, all of it. And I knew in this moment of this realization of who I was and who we all have the potential to be, that I could just stretch out my hand and heal people or change people or transform people, because the medicine was pure love. And I feel like big things are coming, guys. I feel like this is the time for us to wake up and realize, as the world seems to be getting darker and darker, the light has come. The light has come. I love you today.